my inky friends, it's Cindy Lynn with My Inky Fingers. Thank you so much for joining me today on my YouTube channel and blog. If you're new here, welcome and happy Easter Sunday. For today's Master Your Card Making on page 48 of the 2020-2021 Retiring Annual Catalog, that's a mouthful, we are stepping it up. So I thought this was really perfect for Easter. It's kind of floral and it's got those nice spring colors. So we're going to use the basket and balloons, and you can follow along with the catalog and the video, and you can make all the cards or you can just make one of them, make whichever ones you feel comfortable with. But this is also part of the 30 days 30 cards in 30 days challenge. So you'll want to head over to my blog. The link is below if you want to join in that challenge and upload your cards so that I can see and comment on them. So here I just kind of showed you there how I cut all of that out of one piece of cardstock. And this, I gotta tell you guys, I love my waffle flower mat, and it comes with that plastic thing built into the packaging. Cut that side off and keep it there so that you can put all of your watercolors in there. It just makes it super easy for cleanup. So I'm gonna make a mask. I have masking paper, but I never remember where it is or to even pull it out. And this is so easy. I just stamp on a piece of copy paper, and I use some temporary adhesive, the Tombow, and I'm going to cut this out really fussy, okay, right along that black line, and I'm just going to use that temporary adhesive on there so that I can use that as a mask, and that's always my go-to. I really should pull out, I'm a mental note to self, I'm going to pull out my actual adhesive sheets, temporary repositionable sheets or whatnot. But here, stays on's the key. And the cleaner, I know some of you guys don't have the cleaner, and I can picture your stamps, okay? But as you can see there, oh my gosh, that stays on cleaner. Mine's in a stays on bottle. I've had it before I came back to Stampin' Up, but Stampin' Up carries it, so I will link it for you because it is amazing. So always clean your especially your photopolymer stamps with that. But you're going to stamp this in stays on because it won't bleed on the watercolor paper. And then using your mask, you're going to stamp your leaves because then the little stems and the leaves don't show over top of the pot. It looks like it's coming out of the pot. So you're going to do that 2 times, okay? And then the flowers, you're going to stamp those. You're going to stamp these off enough times for enough flowers for all of your cards. The pictures are on my blog. Now here, this is my favorite type of way to watercolor, and I use the antique linen distress oxide because the ink disappears when you watercolor it. Now mine's super juicy, so I'm stamping it off once and using the 2nd generation ink when I'm actually stamping on the watercolor paper. Now here, I tell you, I was so disappointed. I didn't clean off. I did clean off my stamp, but I rubbed it on my Simply Chamois and it was dirty. So make sure you're using a clean portion of your Simply Chamois or a clean something to clean that stays on off because it made a mess. And that's not going to disappear when I watercolor it. But paper has 2 sides. I flipped it over and I started over again. So I'm going to show you here. I'm just stamping the little flowers as well for the 3rd card in the antique linen. Now I'm going to go through each individual card, starting with card number 1 and then stepping it up. But here I'm going to use the Well Said, and I'm going to stamp friend and the sentiment far apart but close at heart 2 times, and I just use a little bit of that extra watercolor paper. Now you guys, my head gets in the way so much here. I've changed my camera angle in order to improve the quality of my YouTube live videos, so I got to remember to change it back when I'm doing these videos. However, watercolor pencils, not my favorite, and I'm going to explain why, but I'm going to use them today, and I'm going to show you how to use them because they are super inexpensive. So I'm going to pull out Melon Mambo, Pumpkin Pie, Old Olive, Bermuda Bay, Coastal Cabana, Crushed Curry, okay? They're all listed on my blog, and everything I use is listed down below and on my blog as well. But I'm going to pull those out, and I say they're not my favorite, and I'm going to show you on card number 2 why. This one didn't bother me, and this is my 2nd favorite way to use watercolor pencils. Now, granted, I only own Stampin' Up's watercolor pencils. I prefer to color with watercolors from the pans. I have a wide variety of them. But here, I find that the blender brush is the easiest way to use the pencils. Okay, now my cardstock is even nice, and it's nice, a smooth white watercolor cardstock. I use Canson 90-pound XL. I can't link it for you because Stampin' Up carries watercolor paper. That wouldn't be right for me to do that. So I don't know why I'm cleaning this off on a baby wipe here. No idea, but I'm gonna pull out some scratch paper, because don't clean it with a baby wipe. I don't know where my head was at. But all I do is I just apply the watercolor pencil in the areas where I'm envisioning there's going to be darker areas. Okay, so every image I'm going to color today, I'm going to color it pretending that the light is hitting it straight on, not from the left and not from the right, right from straight on. So that the outsides of my images will be darker. So the outsides of the leaves, the inside of the leaf will be darker, the outsides will be lighter because of the way the light's hitting it. But the flower pot, the light is hitting directly in the center of the flower pot, so the outsides will be darker. And I just apply the watercolor pencil, and then I just fan it out, blend it out, and there I go with that baby wipe again. Do not do that. But nevertheless, I just spread it out with the water blender pen, okay? Blender marker, if you will. And here you can see I'm just applying a little bit of dark. Now, less is more. If you haven't done this before, apply a little bit of the watercolor pencil, and if you don't have enough, you can always add more. But if you have too much, this technique, it's super hard to pull that color off. If you're watercoloring, like I'm going to do on the third card, it's much easier, and you'll see me do that. But here, it's just a lot easier to start light and then work your way up. Put a little yellow in the middle, and now I'm just darkening it up a little bit more, because as you can see, I didn't quite put enough. And the key is to apply more once it's dry, because you're going to compromise your paper if you're trying to color on it when it's wet. Don't do that, right? So here, just using that blender pen, blender marker, whatever. I think it is actually called a blender pen. I don't know. Is it a blender pen or blender marker? I'll figure it out when I do all my linking for you guys. So nevertheless, I do for sure. That's my second preferred way when I use watercolor pencils. Now, you're going to cut all your flowers out with the small bloom punch. If you don't have it, sorry, I guess you're fussy cutting them. And I don't even want to hear any complaints about fussy cutting with that card I made not long ago, and I had to fussy cut out like a million images, right? So I'm going to adhere one of the flowers over top of the other, and each time I'm going to fan them so that the petals from the behind flowers show through. A little dimensional, pop it on there. I'm just following along the layout of the actual card in the catalog. And here, I didn't feel like I trimmed these small enough, so I'm just trimming them up a little bit more. I'm going to just stick the friend on there. And you know what? I wiped a little bit of the glue off with my baby wipe there. I had a little bit too much. But this card, pretty much done. I mean, I'm just going to put it on that yellow cardstock. Now here, actually, this is card number 1, right? Yeah, it is. So the yellow, so saffron, just take the smallest little flower stamp there and just stamp around the edge. And then if you put your image on top like that, you're going to see where you might be missing, you know, some of the background. You don't have to do the whole thing, right? So you're just going to adhere that all down, and bam, there you go. I mean, you could make a ton of those super easy. Now, moving into the second card, I didn't quite get a very good impression here, so I'm going to use my Copic multi-liner, because this will not bleed like the StazOn. Okay, it won't bleed even when I watercolor it. I love this pen. If you guys haven't picked one of these up yet, I use them all the time. I'm sure there'll be lots of instances for you guys to use them. So this one here, I'm going to apply my color in a little darker of a fashion than I did in the first one, because we're stepping it up. I want the color to be a little bit more intense. So I'm going to apply a little bit more pressure and just kind of make it a little bit darker. And I'm going to do the same for all of the flowers. Now I am going to use the water brush, and I don't like using the water brush with the watercolor pencils. I find that, I don't know if it's just Stampin' Up's brand or if it's watercolor pencils in general. If you have other watercolor pencils, please chime in the comments and let everybody know. But I don't know if it's just this brand or all brands, but it just feels like a water brush doesn't move the color from a watercolor pencil the same way it moves watercolor from a watercolor pan. So, I mean, if you watch Christina Werner, Debbie Hughes, any of those girls that are just big into the watercoloring, maybe they have the answer. I'm not sure. So I actually emptied mine because I thought it looked a little discolored. Maybe I didn't actually have water in there, but it didn't really change it whatsoever. I think I had an alcohol mixture in there or something anyway. But as you can see here, it doesn't want to move the color, so you're gonna have to work at it a lot more than if you used a blender pen or actual watercolors out of a pan. Okay, so I've actually brought out the blender pen there because I was like, I'm just not having this. So I pulled it out because I wanted to show you guys, okay, what I found. Now I found that the leaves weren't quite as bad because they're a smaller area, so I didn't really feel like I wasn't getting a good blend because it was a tighter area. I couldn't see that it wasn't blending quite as badly. So here, I'm going to show you guys how to take any marker will do. I just pulled out a blend. You can use any marker and just ground your pot. Okay, just it's grounding it to the actual cardstock. It's not floating anymore. So that's stepping it up number 2, I guess, because we're trying to do darker colors, adding, you know, a little bit more this, that, and the other here, flowers, and adding an extra sentiment. Now, what I'm going to do here, I like doing this, okay? I like picking up the color off the pencil and mixing it in those little pans there on my waffle flower mat. And of course that plastic piece is the piece that it was packaged in. I just cut it. But I love picking it up that way and then applying the color. So that might work for you too. And I'm going to show you on the third card how to fill that pan with the color from your watercolor pencil. Super easy. So this here, you're just going to very lightly, like just not super loud, super soft and light, just color in the background above that little gray line where you kind of grounded your pot. Put that down on some DSP, and all of that measurements, everything is listed on my blog, so you can head over there if you want the exact measurements. Now, watercolor paper, I'm going to just, you know, weight down the paper because it doesn't lay super flat, right? So you've got to kind of give it a hand. So I've got my little dapping bottles. I'm going to use those to clean my brush. One to clean my brush, one to pick up clean water. And now here, as you can see, I put some water in that pan and I'm just using a brush and I'm just rubbing the end of my paintbrush just to get that going in that little pan, okay? So here, I had to cut a lot out, you guys, because literally not only did I have terrible hair, but my whole head was covering what I was doing, so I apologize. But the key here is to wet one petal, okay, with the clean water with a clean brush, and then pick up some color off your pencil with the brush you want to use. I'm using a number 2 because it's nice and fine, and then start applying it. If you've got too much, tap it off, pick up some of that color, and then tap it off again. And when I say tap it off, that's that little paper towel I've got there, because it's easy to pick it up. Now, the reason why you put water on the petal first is because then your color will not bleed outside of where you applied that water. Now, because that petal is wet, you're seeing me go from flower to flower back and forth because I want to give that time to dry before I add water. And I don't want to contaminate the previous petal with the next petal. I want everything nice and dry. So you can see me picking up the paint and tapping it off. And sometimes I go over to the little pan because I just need a little bit lighter of the pink, not so dark and intense right off of the pencil. So I'll tap into the pan, right, and just pick up that watercolor from there. So every watercolor pencil, if you have them and you're having a hard time using them, try, and you can use any pan, okay? You can use a plastic paint pan from the dollar store. You guys know what I mean. You see them there. You can pick one of those up and use that. I just like the waffle flower mat because it just, as you can see, like I dropped that paint there and I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to pick the paint up there off that little droplet off of my waffle flower mat. And I use this for blending and all kinds of other things. And it just keeps my workspace clean. So I like that. Now here, I'm going to do the centers with the orange and just kind of, you know, dab them a little to blend them nicely. And then I am going to use the crushed curry, and so you can see here I'm just blending them out a little bit, and I'm just doing it super messy. Like there's no rhyme or reason here. It doesn't, watercoloring doesn't have to be perfect, okay? So now I'm going to pick up some of that daffodil, or sorry, crushed curry, from the pan, but I didn't think it was quite dark enough. So I'm going to go back to the pencil, just do the center, and then, you know, watercolor it out from there. Now the little flowers, you gotta fussy cut them, but the bigger ones, you can definitely use your punch for those. And even these ones, I'm going to layer. And I'm going to pick and choose, okay? I'm going to pick and choose which ones I like the best and which, and you can see I did a couple different things. Play around with them, because the ones that you're not super happy with, you can put them on the bottom and put the ones that you really like on the top when you're adding them together, right? So as you see there, I'm just dabbing down some of the intense color, picking some up, giving it a variation. And I love, love, love how you don't see the black lines. Now, yes, when you get like really up close and personal, you'll see the antique linen ink on there, and you could, if you wanted to, you could probably get away with trying like a crumb cake or a really light water-based ink. Just stamp it off before you stamp it on your actual project that you're going to want to use. And even this, I could have stamped it off a second time, because I should have used third generation ink, because you can really see it. But the problem is I'm doing a video, and if you can't see it, then you have no idea what I'm doing. So mine is a little darker. So if your pad is super wet, try stamping it off a third time, just so you can barely see it. Now here I applied water where I'm going to apply my watercolor, like I did with the flower petals. And here you can see just picking up that watercolor off the pencil. I mean, what a difference. I just love it. So I'm applying the darkest on the outsides because the light is in the center. And then I tap off my brush on my paper towel and I pick up the paint from the inside, because even if you pick up too much, you can always apply a little bit more, right? So here, I'm just going to put some water up the stem, and I'm using a little thicker of a brush here, a number 4, just to apply the water, only because I don't have 2 number 2s, right? And I'm just going to apply that there, and I'm not going to get super fussy on the stem. I mean, I'm no Debbie Hughes, okay? I mean, if you watch her channel, I could watch her channel all day long. Oh my God. I wish her videos were longer. I don't know. Do you ever feel like that? Like you have your favorite creator and you just watch them and you wish their videos were longer, and when it's over, you're like so sad. Oh, it's so sad when her video ends. And talking, you know, she never talks through her watercoloring, and here I am gabbing away. I mean, I don't know. I wish that she talked to me during her watercoloring. What do you guys think? Should I just like shut up and play some music for you guys? I like talking to you though. So nevertheless, back to, see, there's my hair. I don't know what's up with my hair. Always looks like this, by the way, but when I bend down in front of the camera, it's like, it looks like that. It's terrible. I don't know what's going on. Anyhow, okay. So I've got my pot done, and now I'm just picking up a little bit of the intense color, and I'm just bringing in a little bit more intense shading, okay? Because I can kind of see the antique linen a little bit, and I explained why, but this is going to help me blend it out a little bit better and just kind of step this up again and make this card pop. I want to know in the comments below which card you're going to be making too. All of them, or, you know, just one of them. Where's your comfort level? And does this inspire you to try this kind of watercoloring? Like, have you done this before? Is this going to be your first time? Let me know. Chime in. I love hearing from you guys. So, and speaking of hearing from you guys, don't forget, Tuesdays, I do live video streaming now. Thanks to my sideline for talking me into that. And thanks to you guys. My God, you guys make me feel so special every time I come live on there. And I mean, you make my night. You really, really, truly inspire me. So don't forget to come and see me for the live video. So I have a surprise actually on Tuesday for the live video. Something that I think you guys might be impressed with. I'm trying to set my videos apart from everybody else's, because, you know, I want you on my channel, right? So nevertheless, okay, back to my watercoloring. So here, I'm just going to do the same things that I've pretty much done before. I'm going to apply the water, and then I'm going to pick up the the watercolor off the pencil and start where I want it darkest. Now it's going to start darkest where the leaf touches the stem, and then it's going to kind of fade out from there. So I'm going to apply it down, and if I've got too much, I'm going to tap off my brush there on the paper towel, and then I'm going to pick up some of the color off the leaf, because if I pick up too much, like I said before, can always add more later, right? So I left quite a bit of this in, and I know the video is a little bit longer, but you know, maybe I'm one of your favorite creators and you're just loving this extra Cindy Lynn time and watching the video while we chat, or while I chat to you anyway. So applying some water and then applying the color, and this one's a little bigger, so I want to bring it in down along the stem there first and then work it out from there. Now I am going to skip a lot of the other branch, leaf, whatever you want to call it, and I want to show you guys what I did for the final kind of details there, because I don't know. Tell me if you like it when I get to it or not, but I kind of liked the way it finished it off. And like I said, I'm no Debbie Hughes. I'm not a master at this. And it's probably because I don't get to do it enough, because I don't pull out my watercolor pans enough. If that's something you guys want to see, and I get enough people in the comments telling me, yes, show us like watercoloring, not with watercolor pencils, I'm there. I mean, and Prismacoloring, oh my gosh, you guys, I love my Prismacolor pencils. So they're the same as the Faber-Castell or whatnot. It just depends on preference, I guess. And I've had my my Prismacolor pencils for so long, right? So those are what I use. Those are what I learned coloring on. So nevertheless, I've got my number 2 out here, and what I'm going to do, now that I'm finished watercoloring pretty much, I'm just picking up some darker and I'm just painting the veins of the leaves just on the centers, and then a little bit on the outsides just to balance it off and just kind of make it pop a little bit more. And I probably could have used a 0 here, okay, because the 2 was a little thick, but once I got started, I was like, I'm just going to keep going. And I actually need to get a new 0. I wrecked my other one. This one is a 10, and I have 2 number 10s. I have this one, I don't even know what the brand is. I got it on sale somewhere, and the end is a little bit different. You just want a really soft, flexible end, and you're going to use, I believe it's the Coastal Cabana, and you're going to make it a little more intense here. And don't worry too much about going over top of the old olive, because it's not going to make the world a difference. Like, you don't want to go too crazy, right? But here I use the watercolor pencil, and I just watercolor penciled a line there. It wasn't quite what I pictured in my mind, so I picked up the paper towel and I dabbed it off, and then I went about my business. And I was looking at it while I'm dabbing all of this watercolor on here, and it's just dabbing it, okay? You want like a really loose dab-alicious piece of paper, but nevertheless, I'm looking at it going, I'm going to bring in the gray, and this is the same way I did it on card number 1, or number 2, sorry. So just brought in that marker. I find that the Tombow, there's a Tombow that's really good for this too, but I just pulled out my Stampin' Blends. So I adhered my little flowers together the same way I did before. That one there on the right, I'm going to glue it straight down to the cardstock. The other ones, I'm going to put some little mini dimensionals on them. Gizmo is snoring below me. Some of you guys, it warms your heart. And I guess if it bothers some people, they probably just leave and never comment and tell me. But if you don't like to hear dogs snoring, you can't be an inky friend, right? So Flowers, he's going to town under there. And I usually don't notice, but I'm becoming more conscious of it, right? So here, they had die cut the word friend out of the well-written dies in the catalog card. And I wish I had left it like this. And you can see me kind of straightening up my card there. If your card is super crinkly and bad, run it through your die cutting machine in between some paper. It'll be fine. But I'm kind of wishing I hadn't put the friend on it, but you'll see it after. I wish I just had left it, but nevertheless. So here, I cut those strips. All the measurements are on my blog, and I'm feeling like some need to be stretched and some need to be shrunk. So there, I'm going to stretch it. I'm going to cut it in the middle, stretch it out behind the watercolor paper, and then the bottom 2, I'm going to snip a little bit off. You do what feels right for you, how you want it, okay? But I just snipped enough off so that where I positioned it, it didn't poke out the other side, right? So I'm going to glue those down once I think I've got them where I want. And this here, this was for me, because I always forget to write it on my instruction sheet. So that was for me, so I thought I'd leave it in for you. But there's the friend. I used some champagne foil cardstock for that. And as you can, oh, and then the middle card, I ended up putting some enamel dots on it too. I talked about that on my blog, and the picture on my blog has them on there. But nevertheless, the friend, you do on your card what you want to do. So thank you so much for joining me today. Again, happy Easter, and until I see you again, take care and happy stamping.